Welcome back. A fascinating topic here. Texting, a great way for couples to say, I'm thinking of you. But it's an actual case of being all thumbs when it comes to handling arguments, apologies, and serious topics via text, according to new research from Brigham Young University. Lori Scaddy conducted that research as a doctoral candidate, and she's a marriage and family therapist here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so we all have to text and receive texts and all that stuff, so I'm eager to hear what you found out. But how did you do your research?
Well, we questioned couples over a 2-year period. It was different couples. It was not longitudinal, but we questioned them about various aspects of texting, and we included frequency of texting and asking them about how they use texting in their interpersonal relationships, whether they used it to hurt their partners, express affection, or regulate the relationship. And then we also asked them questions about the relationship satisfaction, relationship stability, relationship attachment, and then we compared those responses.
Okay, so before we reveal what it meant to relationships, let's talk about guys and women and the differences. What did you learn about men who text?
Well, this is one of the surprising findings of our study, was that we found that men's texting frequency was actually associated with lower measures of relationship quality for both themselves and for their partners.
Okay, now what does that mean?
Okay, so that means the more they were texting, it was associated with less relationship happiness, less relationship stability.
Okay, so for example, that would be me sending a text of just what? Just basic 5-word, be home at 7, or what?
Well, it was just how frequently they texted throughout the day.
Okay.
So we asked some measurements about how often are you texting this close, intimate partner, and we paired the data. And so they were asked questions specifically about texting this other person with whom they took the assessment.
And the more they texted that person, the less and less they were actually involved in that relationship.
The lower their relationship quality scores.
That's interesting. All right,
yes.
What about women? What did you learn about that?
And we found that their relationship quality scores were also lower if their partners were texting a lot. And the only significant pathway we found with women's texting frequency was that theirs was actually associated in an opposite way with higher relationship stability scores.
Okay, and so what does that mean?
So that makes us think, as clinicians, when we're trying to make sense
Sure.
of it, makes us think that they are probably using texting as a way to pursue their partners or have more connection with their partners. And it parallels a pattern that we see with heterosexual couples in therapy. And that's why we make sense out of it that way.
Okay, so now we've got the relationship, and now the harm that can be done by texting as opposed to talking. What do you see?
So we think that men actually might be following this parallel pattern like they use in interpersonal communications with their companions, in that women tend to be relationship pursuers,
right,
and men often can become very withdrawing. And so we think that maybe this texting frequency association might mean that they're using texting as a way to avoid interpersonal communication.
So you can have a discussion about something you don't really want to talk about in short texts, and for a guy, that keeps you out of the conversation altogether?
Right, it means you can stay avoidant of that conversation.
And for the woman, it drives them nuts because the guy is not, what? Engaged?
Really engaged. So seemingly engaged by answering in a very disconnected, distant sort of way.
All right, so couples who text a lot, it's not necessarily a good thing according to your research.
Right, right.
And what does your research recommend to strengthen that relationship?
Well, we found these other interesting associations with content, which were that texting to express affection actually had very positive correlations with relationship satisfaction, and that seemed intuitive to us. But that's also really exciting because it means that you can probably create this positive emotional environment in close interpersonal relationships with texting. And then on the other hand, we found this intuitive finding that using texting to hurt your partner does have very real consequences in a relationship, destabilizing the relationship essentially.
That's interesting, and folks can read more about it. I've seen that pattern in relationships, and you're right. For guys, it's like, hey, I'm just going to send a text and this thing's over. and for women, it's much more involved.
Oh, sure.
Than that.
Yeah, my husband loves texting to avoid emotional conversations.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that. You can read more about this topic in an article written by Lois Collins on DeseretNews.com. Next, families choosing to cut the cable cord, the pros and cons, when Deseret News Sunday Edition continues.